Welcome to the deep dive. Ready to explore some fascinating stuff.
Always.
Okay, so today we're diving into Adventures in Light and Energy with Zoran the Dragon.
A children's book.
Yeah, but don't be fooled. It's packed with some pretty profound concepts about light and energy.
Oh, I love that. Children's books have this amazing way of taking really complex ideas and making them simple,
Right.
but still powerful.
Yeah.
They spark this sense of wonder and curiosity, and that's so essential for any deep dive.
Absolutely. And speaking of sparks, the book starts off with a pretty epic one, The Big Bang.
Ah,
Zoran, our dragon guide, describes it as this massive cosmic fireworks show. You know, the one that created the entire universe.
I love that imagery. And it's scientifically accurate, too.
Right.
The Big Bang Theory does propose that the universe came from this incredibly hot, dense state. And from that, light emerged as one of the first things.
It's amazing to think about, right?
Is
So Zoran talks about a tiny dragon spark that witnessed the Big Bang. And eventually, all that cosmic light went on to form stars and galaxies and everything, you know?
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
we're all connected to that initial event.
Totally.
The elements that formed those early stars.
Yeah.
They make up our bodies and everything around us. We really are stardust.
It's mind-blowing. Have you ever felt like this spark inside yourself, like this drive to create or explore or understand? Maybe that's a little piece of the Big Bang still inside us.
Oh, that's a beautiful thought.
Right. So back to Zoran. Now, he loves order. He's a dragon who likes things organized.
Okay.
And he decides the early universe was a bit too chaotic, you know, with light just doing whatever.
Yeah.
So what does he do?
Right.
He takes it upon himself to organize day and night,
Oh, wow.
convincing the sun and moon to take turns shining. It's a cute story, but it really touches on something essential. Light's role in regulating life's rhythms.
Yeah.
Exactly, like the circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah.
Our internal clock that governs our sleep-wake cycles.
Yep.
And guess what has the most powerful influence over that clock?
Light.
Light. Even Zoran the dragon gets it.
And he calls light's ability to connect everything its secret superpower. Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, but go on.
Starlight traveling for billions of years to reach our eyes.
Oh, wow.
The same sunlight nourishing us, helping trees grow.
Yeah.
Like, we're all connected in this web of life.
It's a poetic way to express the interconnectedness of the universe.
Right.
We're not isolated. We're part of this intricate system, all linked by energy and light.
It's a good reminder
Right.
to be more aware of our connections
To each other, to nature.
to the universe.
Yeah.
So, moving on, the book introduces this idea of a cosmic trio.
Okay.
Light, electricity, and life.
Interesting.
Of course, Zoran personifies them. Light's the show-off, electricity's the prankster,
Yeah.
and light's the quiet dreamer.
Love it.
Right. It
Yeah.
makes these abstract forces so relatable. It's a great example of how you can simplify without oversimplifying.
Wow.
You can make complex ideas more engaging and accessible.
Exactly. And there's this hilarious story where Zoran tries to heal his wing with electricity, thinks he can just zap it back to health.
Oh, no.
And naturally it backfires.
Of course.
But that introduces the idea that our bodies have these electrical systems, right?
It does. And that's more than a simple children's book concept.
Oh.
Yeah, our nervous system uses electrical impulses to transmit information. And our cells actually generate their own electrical fields.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
And Dr. Robert O'Becker, he was a researcher who studied bioelectromagnetism.
Okay.
And he found that these fields, these electrical fields, play a critical role in things like healing and regeneration.
So Zoran's little electricity adventure had some truth to it.
It did. And, his story also highlights how important it is to understand these forces, these powerful forces,
Yeah.
not just for knowledge, but also for respecting them, working with them in safe and sustainable ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with how much we rely on electricity these days.
Yeah, we take it for granted, don't we?
We do. But this book goes even further. It suggests that light's more than just energy.
More than energy.
It's like a language.
What
A language that speaks to all living things.
Now, that's something I'm curious about. How can light be a language?
I know, right?
Yeah.
It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. But it makes sense when you think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Like plants. They listen to light. They use it to make food.
Through photosynthesis.
Exactly. Zoran calls it leaf magic.
So cute.
It is. But how does it actually work? I mean, how do plants use light to create energy?
It's a complex process, but basically, plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create sugars. Those sugars are their energy source.
It is pretty amazing. And Zoran, being Zoran, tries to make his own dragon sugar
Oh, Zoran.
using sunlight, but of course fails.
He's got to try it, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's a funny way to learn about the different wavelengths of light that plants use
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
and how light acts like a color code in nature.
Exactly. Different wavelengths carry different amounts of energy. Plants have evolved to use specific wavelengths, and that's why we see them in so many colors.
Like red light makes fruit ripen.
And blue light attracts insects for pollination.
It's amazing how much information light carries.
It is, and I bet that goes beyond plants, too.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Think about how animals, including us, see light, react to it. Our eyes pick up on different wavelengths. That's how we see color.
Right, but light affects us in other ways too, right?
Absolutely. Mood, hormones, and, as we mentioned earlier, our sleep cycles.
Oh, speaking of sleep, Zoran learns about something called blue light
Oh, yeah.
and its effects on the body's natural clock. He calls it a confused dragon clock.
Yeah, I love way with words.
It's cute, right? But there's real science behind it too. Tell me about blue light. What's the deal with it?
Okay, so blue light mostly comes from screens, and it can mess with our sleep and energy levels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. During the day, it helps us stay alert, but at night, it can suppress melatonin production.
Melatonin being the sleep hormone,
Yeah.
so too much blue light at night can disrupt our sleep pattern.
Yeah, exactly. And Zoran actually sees this in the book.
He does.
He runs into a kid throwing a tantrum and blames it on blue light strikes from too much screen time.
Oh, poor Zoran.
It's funny, but it's a real issue.
Yeah, so many of us struggle with screen time and sleep.
It is a challenge these days.
It is. But before we get into that, I'm curious about something else from the book.
Go on.
Zoran has this experience where he feels the electromagnetism of a tree. And it leads him to learn about balanced energy for well-being from these Japanese scientists. It's a cool blend of science and ancient wisdom.
It is. Remember Dr. Becker and his research on the body's electrical system?
Yeah.
Zoran's experience ties into that, and also into these ancient traditions about energy fields.
So it's like modern science and ancient knowledge coming together.
Exactly. It's amazing what you can find in a children's book.
It makes you wonder, are modern science and ancient wisdom really that different?
Good point.
They both want to understand the same mysteries, just using different approaches.
It's true. And you know what? Zoran explores this idea even further by. Let's just say he takes a very unique approach to gathering information.
What does he do?
Well, that's a story for the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, listeners, we'll be back soon to continue our exploration of adventures in light and energy with Zoran the Dragon.
It's going to be fascinating.
While we're gone, think about your own experiences with light and energy.
Have you ever felt that deep connection to the universe? Or maybe struggled with too much screen time?
We'll be back soon to dive deeper into these ideas and more.
See you soon.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're continuing our journey with Zoran the Dragon and his adventures in light and energy. And things are about to get, well, let's just say Zoran has a rather interesting way of learning.
He does.
Yeah.
Last time, you were about to tell us how he explores that connection between ancient wisdom and modern science.
Oh, yeah. So get this. Zoran goes on a time-traveling adventure.
Time traveling.
Time traveling. He gets wisdom from ancient dragons, apparently. They were quite the philosophers. And from a modern scientist named Dr. Sparkle.
Wow, you can't make this stuff up.
That's pretty wild. But it's a fun way to explore this real-world debate. Are ancient wisdom and modern science really that different?
Right, or are they just different ways of getting to the same truths?
Exactly. And Zoran finds out that both the ancient dragons and Dr. Sparkle, even with their totally different methods, are trying to understand the same mysteries of the universe.
That's fascinating.
The dragons use observation, intuition, and their connection to nature.
And Dr. Sparkle uses experiments, technology, data.
Yep. And it's a reminder that there's not just one right way to learn and understand things.
I like that. Sometimes we get stuck thinking that science is the only way. But cultures all over the world and throughout history have developed amazing knowledge systems through observation and experience.
And sometimes all those different ways of knowing actually lead to the same conclusions.
Okay.
Like both Dr. Sparkle and the ancient dragons talked about how everything is connected, how balance is so important, and how light and energy affect everything.
It's a powerful message, especially when the world feels so divided these days.
It is. It's like we're all looking at the same tapestry, maybe from different angles, but it's still the same tapestry.
I love that analogy.
So Zoran, with all this new wisdom he's gathered, comes back to the present day with some practical advice for living a good life.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right. It's not just about understanding light and energy. It's about applying that knowledge to our own lives.
So what kind of advice did he bring back from his time-traveling adventures?
Well, his first piece of advice might be surprising in today's world. Be patient.
Patient. That's almost a radical idea these days.
I know, right? But he has a great analogy. He compares patience to dragon fire. It takes time to build up, but when it finally ignites, it's unstoppable.
I see.
He's saying that rushing things often leads to burnout, but going slow and steady gets you better results.
It's a good lesson for kids and for adults, too.
Yeah, we're always being pushed to go faster and do more.
It's sure.
So remembering the power of patience is important.
Absolutely. What else? What other wisdom did Zoran bring back?
Well, he also talks about balance, like a seesaw.
Ah, I like that visual.
Work and rest, light and darkness, screen time, and being outside.
It's about finding that middle ground.
Yeah, where you feel energized but also grounded.
And that's different for everyone, right? There's
Yeah.
no one right answer.
Exactly. It's about figuring out what works for you.
And speaking of things that can throw us off balance, what does Zoran say about technology?
Oh, yeah. Remember how he was overwhelmed by all the glowing rectangles?
He compared them to a chaotic star party, right?
Yeah. It was a funny scene, but it also makes you think about how much we're surrounded by screens.
It's a real concern.
It is. We use them to connect with people, but sometimes we lose those real-world connections.
That's a good point.
I don't think Zoran's anti-technology.
Yeah.
He just wants us to be more mindful about it.
To find that healthy balance.
Right. He even gives some tips, like setting limits on screen time, taking breaks, doing things that don't involve screens.
Those are great tips. And they align with what experts recommend, too.
It's about making choices instead of letting technology control us.
Exactly.
And I think that goes back to patience. It might feel weird to step away from screens at first.
Yeah.
But if we resist that urge for instant gratification, we might find ourselves connecting more deeply with the world around us.
And with ourselves.
I love that. Oh, and Zoran also has this adorable piece of advice about taking care of yourself.
What is it?
He says, be kind to your body because it's your only dragon costume.
Oh, that's so cute.
It is. It's a great message for kids, especially while they're still figuring out how they feel about their bodies.
And it's a good reminder for all of us, really,
Yeah, to treat our bodies with respect.
to appreciate them.
And Zoran also talks about laughter, kindness, connection. He calls laughter a dragon's best friend.
He's so wise for a dragon.
He is. And he reminds us that sharing joy makes the world a brighter place.
I think Soren's given us a lot to think about.
He has. He's reminded us to be patient, to seek balance, to be mindful of our technology use, and to be kind to ourselves and others.
And he's done it in such a fun and engaging way.
It's amazing what a simple children's book can do.
Okay, listeners, take a moment to think about Zoran's journey and all the wisdom he shared. What spoke to you the most?
What are some things you might try in your own life?
We'll be back soon to explore some of the most interesting connections between Zoran's world and real-world science.
Welcome back to the deep dive. As we wrap up our time with Zoran the Dragon, I'm really struck by how this children's book has connected to real science.
It is amazing how a story for kids can resonate with adults, too.
It is. Like, remember how Zoran tried to heal his wing with electricity?
Oh, yeah. That was hilarious.
It was. But it also touched on some pretty groundbreaking science.
You mean the body electric?
Exactly. Dr. Robert O. Becker, his research was incredible.
It was revolutionary. He showed that our bodies actually use electricity for all sorts of things.
Like what?
Nerve impulses, muscle contractions, even healing.
Wow. It's like we have this hidden electrical network inside us.
We do.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, does this connect to ancient healing practices?
Like acupuncture.
Exactly. A lot of traditional healing is based on the idea of energy fields in the body.
And those practices are starting to be validated by science.
It's true. Ancient wisdom and modern science, they can learn from each other.
I also found Zoran's encounter with quantum biology fascinating.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Brightspark and the photon.
Yeah, tiny particles of light influencing life at the molecular level.
It's mind-blowing. And it challenges so much of what we thought we knew about how life works.
I know. Photosynthesis, bird migration, even human consciousness.
It's like light is woven into everything.
And then there's light pollution, something Zoran learns about from Ellie the owl.
Right. Artificial light at night, it's a growing problem.
It disrupts our sleep, messes with animals' natural rhythms.
Zoran even has trouble sleeping because of it.
Ellie explains that darkness is crucial for melatonin production.
And that light pollution can really disorient nocturnal animals.
It shows how much our actions can impact the environment and even our own health.
It all comes back to balance.
We need both light and dark.
Day and night, activity and rest.
It's about finding that rhythm that lets us thrive.
And that's Soren's message in a nutshell. Embrace both the light and the dark.
They're not opposites, they're two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. So as we say goodbye to Zoran, what are some key takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, I think Soren reminds us to be curious, like a child, to keep exploring and making connections.
And to remember that even complex science can be fun and understandable through stories.
Zoran's adventures showed us that science can be exciting, that ancient wisdom still holds value, and that light connects us all.
Beautifully said. Keep exploring the world of light and energy.
Find that balance in your own life.
And never lose that sense of wonder.
Until next time, keep diving deep.